Most people have never even heard of an LNG carrier, but these giant ships keep half the world's energy flowing, and that's really important at the moment because the flow is basically stopping. Right now, with the tensions in the Middle East, we've got Russia and Ukraine, and we've got Iran. All of these problems are causing huge problems with energy, and LNG carriers are currently at the forefront of these issues. These ships, because of what they do, are probably now some of the most important vessels on the ocean at the moment. Now, LNG carriers, they look incredibly dangerous, but in reality, they're actually the safest ships on the ocean, and they have a fantastic safety record, unless you're a ship that's been hit by either a missile, a submarine, or some other form of missile. So what is LNG? Now, LNG stands for liquid natural gas. And to transport gas on ships, it needs to be cooled down to minus 162 degrees Celsius. And at that temperature, the big gas shrinks down more than 600 times, and that allows the gas to be pumped into ships and actually transported. So who relies on liquid natural gas? Well, actually, quite a few countries. Japan is the world's largest importer of liquid natural gas. It has hardly any natural gas of its own, and after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, they shut down a lot of their nuclear plants, so they don't have many ways of producing their own electric. So in that sense, Japan has to import a huge amount of energy to keep the country alive. South Korea is also heavily reliant on liquid natural gas. China even imports massive amounts. Why is that? Well, China is looking to reduce pollution, so they're moving from coal that's powering their cities to a cleaner fuel, and liquid natural gas is that cleaner fuel. The UK, where I'm from, the UK used to rely on North Sea gas, but the production of that is just dwindled and dwindled over the years. Production has pretty much stopped. So now imports of liquid natural gas from other countries have become significantly more important. Terminals like Southhook and Dragon in Wales are two of the biggest in the country. The rest of Europe has changed dramatically in their energy uses. After Russia invaded Ukraine, Europe had to find different ways of getting their energy. The embargoes on Russia exports a lot of liquid natural gas. They decided, right, we're not going to use any Russian liquid natural gas anymore, we need to get it from somewhere else. So even countries like Germany built their own terminals really quickly, in record time, so they could allow ships to bring in liquid natural gas. Another country, India, again, another big user of coal. They're trying to be a bit cleaner. They've got huge industry that they're trying to run, and imports of liquid natural gas are a good way for them to push their industry. Now, this is a bit that I love about ships, why I'm passionate about ships. How do they work? Now, LNG tankers are fantastic. They're really, really technically advanced. So to transport natural gas as a liquid, it needs to be cooled down to minus 162, but then it needs to keep cool, otherwise it turns back into a gas. That's a problem. So LNG ships have enormous insulated cooled tanks on board. Now, no insulation is 100% perfect. So some of the gas in these tanks actually does evaporate as the ship is transporting the gas. Now, this is called boil-off gas. But what do you do with liquid that's then turning into a gas? Do you just vent it and get rid of it, or do you use it? Now, this is where the ships really come into their own. The technology is fantastic. The gas that's vented off in the tanks actually is used to power the ship's engines. So the ship is literally powered by the cargo it's carrying. So in theory, the ship could just keep going until the gas runs out. The ship could literally keep traveling around the world on its own cargo. I think that's fantastic. Right, so let's talk about the tanks. So there's two types of tanks. There's Firstly, Moss tanks. Now these are the large spherical tanks, the big balls that sort of they're sticking out all over the deck that make them so recognisable. They're massively strong, they handle the pressure really well, and they're quite easy to look at to inspect for leaks. But in terms of the space they take up, they're not perfect. They actually waste quite a lot of space. The second type is called a membrane tank, and these are built into the hull of the ship. So the tanks are sort of square with almost like a chamfered rectangular top. And so from the outside, the ship looks like more of a natural cargo ship. They're more space efficient, and it means that this ship can actually carry more gas. So why are these ships so important at the moment? Well, Europe is replacing Russian gas because of the war with Ukraine. The problem at the moment is these tensions in the Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz, massive issues at the moment. Iran has effectively closed the straits to the majority of countries. It's not safe. It's certainly not safe for a gas ship to go through. So at the moment, there's shortages of fuel and gas around the world. There's shortages of diesel because of oil tankers. There's shortages of gas. It can't travel. It's difficult for it to travel. If you don't use the Strait of Hormuz, you have to travel all the way down to the bottom of Africa and back up. That's an extra 6,000 or 7,000 kilometers the ships have to travel. Makes them less cost effective. And shipping has always had a problem with cost. Now, my personal angle for LNG ships, I've actually got some stock invested in Flex LNG. And at the moment, with all the issues around the world, the stock market is very much down. But the one stock that's up at the moment is Flex LNG. When all of these problems ease, when things start flowing again, there's going to be a massive increase in ship traffic. As soon as all these problems are ironed out, these liquid natural gas ships are going to be absolutely flat out. So what is the future of liquid natural gas shipping? Well, right now there's between 700 and 850 currently on the ocean, being used, operating worldwide. And another 300 to 400 are now being built right now. How much does a ship cost? Ooh, yeah, they're not cheap. They cost between $220 and $260 million to build one of these ships. So it's a huge investment, and you can see that with energy prices spiking and the cost of energy at the moment and all these fuel shortages, there's going to be a need for all of these ships to produce all of the energy that the world needs all of the time. So these liquid natural gas ships are powering countries all over the world, and not that many people even realise where their gas comes from and how it's transported. The world actually depends on shipping, and most people don't really realise. They don't see giant ships on a day-to-day basis. LNG carriers are probably one of the most important ships in the world, especially right now with all the energy problems we're having. I love ships. If you love ships like I do, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to talk about all kinds of ships. The world depends more on ships than anybody realises. The majority of people don't see giant ships on a daily basis. LNG carriers are probably some of the most important ships right now, especially with all the energy problems that we're having. And they're going to be one of the most important things that's going to pull economies back into shape after all of this mess is over. If you like ships, like I do, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to talk about all kinds of ships, from oil tankers to paddle steamers, my personal favourite. I might even talk about some of the old clipper ships. I'm passionate about ships. I love the ocean. This channel is dedicated to ships that have, in the past or now, just quietly run the world without anybody even knowing.